He became infamous as the world's youngest serial killer at only 8 years old. Amarjit Sada lived in a village in Bihar, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, Bihar, India, in 2006 with his family. In that specific village, there was a lot of poverty and there were a lot of families that lived there, most of whom seemed to be related in one way or another. And it was super common for kids to always be outside playing together. There was always a group of kids all throughout the village talking, playing, walking, whatever it was. And one of those kids, a little girl, was always seen playing outside with her cousins, her friends, her neighbors, but she would always return home at the end of the day. Until one day she didn't, and people in the village noticed that they hadn't seen this one little girl outside long enough for people to start raising eyebrows, start asking questions. Around the same time, a newborn baby disappeared out of the blue, and when that baby was born, she was the light of that family. She was all that they would talk about. They loved her so much, but from one day to the other, she disappeared, and the family said nothing, and it was almost like the baby didn't exist at all. And from my understanding, it sounds like the village was one where everyone knew everyone, but also one where each family minded their own business. Like if something was going on, but it had nothing to do with you or your family, you didn't ask questions, you just kind of stayed away from it. Not long after, in 2007, a mom dropped off her 8-month-old baby at a local daycare for them to watch her for the day, but when she returned to pick her up, she disappeared as well. And her mother went into a panic. Of course she did. The entire day she had been under the impression that her daughter was safe and sound, being taken care of, but she just learned that she was missing. She immediately started telling every single person that she saw that her baby was missing, not only so they were informed, but so that everyone could be on the lookout for her. And also to ask around and see if anyone had any information about where she could be, which is when she ran into a family member that was part of the Sada family, and she was frantic. She was explaining that she was freaking out, she was looking for her daughter, visibly distraught, confused, desperate. And then that person said, I think I might be able to help you. So the mom, along with now the family member from the Sada family, go to the police, and then all of them, the mom, the family member from the Sada family, and the police start walking together towards a group of kids that was playing outside, and the family member from the Sada family calls Amarjit Sada. And I'm not sure what the exact relation was, but they were related. Amarjit Sada was an 8-year-old little boy, and they tell him that this little baby girl has gone missing. And they ask him if he has any idea of where she could be. Amarjit Sada responds that yes, he actually does. So they sit down for a chat, and the police ask the little boy to tell them what he knew. And Amarjit looked at them and said something to the effect of, I know that she is dead because I killed her. He said it with no emotion on his face. The police said he actually kind of smiled and talked about how he had committed a murder at 8 years old as if it was, quote, nothing more than a chore, end quote. And the police didn't even know what to think. They didn't want to believe that this 8-year-old little boy could have been capable of ending someone's life. But then Amarjit walked them over to a field, and there he pointed at a shallow grave in which he had placed the deceased body. He told them that he had taken the baby from the local daycare when no one was watching. He walked her to a secluded area and used his own 2 hands to cut off her air circulation. But then he started explaining that it was kind of boring for him, that he was getting bored because he wasn't getting enough of a reaction. So then he grabbed a brick and he used that to create horrific blunt force trauma to his victim over and over again until they were no longer alive. This 8-year-old little boy was then taken to the police station, and it was while he was there that it dawned on everyone even more just how horrific this was, because they had this little boy sitting in this chair. His little legs were so small they were just dangling off the chair. They're getting ready to question him, and he's just sitting there smiling at everyone like he doesn't even know why he's there. He has no idea what they're about to talk about, and when they start talking about it, it's like he has no idea that it's something horrible that he just did. Before they start questioning him, he tells them that he doesn't want to talk unless they gave him some cookies beforehand, which they did. So they're looking at this little kid munching on some cookies, trying to make sense of everything. And like I mentioned, Amarjit Sada was only 8 years old at the time of this case, and authorities would soon realize that that 8-month-old baby was not his first victim. The 6-year-old little girl who disappeared in 2006 was Amarjit's cousin. She was 6 years old at the time, and Amarjit was 7, and he had done the exact same thing to her. He took her to an isolated area, tried to cut off her air supply with his hands. He's looking down at her face that is literally changing colors because she isn't getting any air, but then he stepped away, he grabbed a rock and used that to brutally murder her. And then he went home and he told his mom and his dad what he had just done. And then eventually they told the uncle as well, which was the little girl's father, which I can't even begin to imagine that conversation. But he confessed like it was the most casual thing in the world. And again, he was 7 years old. So following his confession, after sitting on it, talking about it, discussing it, the family as a whole, the entire Sada family, so not only Amarjit's parents, but also the extended family as well, aunts, uncles, etc., the Sada family decided that this was a secret that would stay between them. They were not going to report it. They were not going to announce it. They were never going to talk about it again because they didn't want to risk losing Amarjeet too. They wanted to protect him. So his parents punished him for what he did, but they kept it between them, kept this as a family secret, hoping to never talk about it again. And then a few months passed, and then Amarjeet did it again, this time to his own newborn sister. Their mom put the baby down for a nap. Amarjeet saw her, picked her up, took her to an isolated area, and murdered her, just like he had done to his cousin months prior. Their mom noticed the baby was gone, and she knew the first person they had to find was Amarjeet. They found him, and he confessed. He just told her what he did. And yet again, this was kept between the family. They didn't go to the police. They didn't report it. This was just another family matter. Which brings us to 2007, when a mom dropped off her 8-month-old daughter at a local daycare, and then Amarjeet claimed her as his third victim, ended her life in the exact same way, but this time his victim was not a part of his family. At the police station, Amarjeet Sada sat there, a serial killer at 8 years old, authorities under the strong belief that he'd suffered from psychiatric disorders for obvious reasons. He saw so many different psychiatrists, psychologists, all who diagnosed him with different things, one of the main ones being controlled disorder. He was also described as a sadist who took pleasure in the fear and pain of others. One of the psychologists also said that he was a psychopath. It was also concluded that he had a chemical imbalance in his brain, which is why his brain was wired in a way that made him enjoy the pain of others. At the station, Amarjeet reportedly told the police, quote, "She was sleeping in the school. I took her a little away and killed her with a stone and buried her," end quote. He was arrested and taken to court, where he was tried as a child. However, under Indian law, a child cannot be sent to prison or sentenced to death, but a child can be detained at a children's house until they turn 18. So that's what happened. He was sent to a house, a children's facility in a nearby town until he turned 18. He turned 18 in 2017, and his whereabouts are unknown. The fact that a kid became a serial killer at 8 years old is bizarre. The fact that that person is somewhere in the world right now just walking free is also insane. Yeah, like that's terrifying to me. But that is all I have for today's video. Let me know if you've heard about this before and what your thoughts are on it. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me today, spending time with me today. Hope you're having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.